Okay, our next task is to add the delete functionality so that when a user does click on the delete button, we delete the image. And we need to think about deleting it not just from our database, but of course from Cloudinary as well. So let's head back to VS Code to accomplish this, and I'll just close all of this stuff down. And we're going to start off in our user's controller here, and we're going to create another endpoint to delete an image. So just below the set main photo, we'll create an HTTP delete endpoint, and we'll give it a root parameter and say delete-photo / and we're going to take in the photo ID for this one. So we'll say public async task, and we'll return an action result, and we'll say delete photo, and we're going to have the int of the photo ID. And because the photo ID is a number, we can give the parameter a constraint of an int there. And we'll get hold of our user, so I'll say var user equals await user repository, and we'll say get user by username async, and we'll say user.get username. We'll check to make sure the user, or see if the user is null, and if so, we're going to return a bad request and say user not found. And we'll never see that, by the way, because I've mentioned it before, but we cannot get to this line of code or this line of code unless the user is authenticated. The framework is going to prevent that behavior from happening, so we should never see this. And really, this line of code is just to prevent our compiler from warning us that the user could be null if we try and use it further down inside our code. And this statement, whilst it doesn't really do anything for us, because technically we're going to have that user, it does stop our compiler from shouting at us, telling us what we're using could possibly be null. So next we're going to get hold of the photo that we're going to try and delete. So I'm going to say var photo equals, and we're going to say user.photos, and we'll say first or default, and we'll say x goes to x.id, that's equal to the photo ID that we're passing in. And we'll do another check, and we'll say if photo is equal to null, or the photo is main, we're not going to let them delete their main image either, we'll return a bad request and say this photo cannot be deleted. And then we'll check to see if the photo has a public ID. We have two different types of images. One type of image is coming from that random user API. The other type of image will be the images that we're storing on Cloudinary. And we'll check to see if we have a public ID. So I'm going to say if photo.publicID not equal to null, then we're going to effectively delete the image from Cloudinary. So we'll say var result equals and await, and we'll use our photo service, and we'll use the delete photo async method, and we'll say photo and public ID. And then we'll check for the presence of the error, and we'll say if result.error not equal to null, then we're going to return a bad request, and we'll say result.error.message. So if we get past this without an error, then we can be confident that our image has been deleted from Cloudinary. And then we can say user.photos.remove, and we can remove the photo, and then we can update our database. So we can say if await user repository and save all async, then we can return OK, which is the correct response to return from or for a delete request. And finally, if it's not saved successfully, we'll return a bad request and say problem deleting photo. And that will suffice for this method. So now we've updated our API, let's just do the normal thing of not trusting hot reload and just manually restarting the server anyway. And we'll do a test in Postman just to make sure this functionality is working as expected. So now that's restarted. I'll head over to the Postman requests, and we've got a request here to delete a photo, which goes to https localhost 5001, and I'll just update that to the URL variable, and we'll have our token being sent up as an authorization header. And this is going to delete the photo with the ID of 11. So if I check for the presence of that, I'll just get the user by username again and make sure I've got an image with an ID of 11, and I do. And this is not set to be the main photo. And ID of 14 is the one that's set to be the main photo. So trying to delete this one should work. And if I click on delete photo and I click send, then that should be deleted. And I can see I've got the 200 OK message, which means that image has now gone. And if I try and get my user by username again, and I send this request, then image with the ID of 11 has gone. And just to prove the point as well, if I go and take a look at Cloudinary, then inside the media library for this particular folder, then I've got 3 images, and that matches what I have left inside here as well. So we can be confident that the image has gone from Cloudinary, and it's now gone from our database. And next we'll take a look at configuring the client for this.